The pagan gods are demons, but are they also Nephilim, giants? And do the Bible and pagan myths tell the same story but from opposite perspectives? Let's find out. Saint Justin Martyr believed that after generations had fallen away from the true God and been corrupted by the demons, the pagan mythologists and poets had long since forgotten the demonic origins of their so-called gods, and through their influence told their myths in order to lead the human race astray. How do the pagan myths lead people astray? Let's briefly look at the Greek titan Prometheus and compare him to biblical figures to see how the pagan myths invert biblical truth. Prometheus rebels against Zeus and the Olympians, tricking them into receiving inadequate sacrifices before stealing the technology of fire from the Olympians and gifting it to humanity, before being punished for his rebellion. We can see echoes of Lucifer in this, but perhaps even more apt is Cain. Because God rejects his insufficient sacrifice, Cain rebels against him by murdering Abel, and after his forced exile, converses with demons, acquiring forbidden technologies for him and his family. So if we view Zeus as a stand-in for God, then both Prometheus and Cain make lacking sacrifices to God, rebel against him, grant people technologies they should not have, and are punished for this. But what is more important than these similarities is the differences. Lucifer and Cain's rebellions, and Eve's for that matter, are rightly seen as evil, and yet Prometheus's is seen as good. And it's not just these early rebel figures where the Bible and pagan myths adopt opposing moral outlooks. In the Bible, the flood is sent by God because of the sheer moral depravity of the world. Tradition holds that the primary locus of this corruption is the giants or Nephilim, who themselves are the result of Cain's family's collaboration with demons, which I briefly mentioned earlier. Now we know that the Great Flood can be seen across pagan cultures, but what you might not know is that these cultures see the pre-flood time as a golden age, due to the very reason Christianity views it as the opposite. Because of the relation between man and these gods or demons and the advanced technology that is given to man as a result. This can be seen in the Greek age of heroes, with these heroes being god and man hybrids like Hercules, Achilles, and Perseus, as well as in the myth of Atlantis, where a technologically advanced civilization with divine ancestry is wiped out by a flood. But it is more clear in Babylonian history, in which it is claimed that post-flood Babylonian rulers such as Hammurabi were great insofar as they had knowledge from before the flood. And this same knowledge was originally granted to the pre-flood kings by divine sages known as the Apkallu, demons. Now in the Old Testament, we also have the persistence or re-emergence of giants and their demonic technologies after the flood. According to Saint King Alfred the Great, the giants of the Bible, including Nimrod, are the true expression of the giants of Greek myth. Those chaotic beings, children of the primordials Gaia and Uranus, who rose up against the Olympians. Likewise, Nimrod rebels against God by building the Tower of Babel. The Olympian gods could not defeat the giants alone. Despite sending lightning and winds, they needed the help of man. And what do you see in the Bible? That the flood and the wind sent by God to the Tower of Babel did not wipe out the giants. Instead, he called upon the participation of man. Joshua to wipe out the Canaanite giant clans, David to kill their last descendants, including Goliath, and ultimately for the Son of God to defeat these same giants in their spiritual form, casting them into pigs and drowning them once again, before teaching his followers to do the same thing through the power of the same Holy Spirit that blew over the Tower of Babel. Interestingly, this is actually an example of moral continuity between pagan and biblical versions, with the Greek giants and their rebellion also being viewed as evil. Another example of moral continuity is the binding of both the Greek Titans and the Watchers, the fallen angels who bred with human women in the Book of Enoch, Likely referencing these same demons, St. Peter even states that they are bound in the same hellish place Zeus sent the Titans after his rebellion, Tartarus. Is it possible that certain pagan gods are not just the demonic progenitors of giants, but the giants themselves? Ancient Christian historian Eusebius believed so. Here's what he said. These demons, as in the pagan gods, are those giants, the Nephilim, and that their spirits have been deified by the subsequent generations of men, and that their battles among themselves are the subject of these legends that are told as of gods. And this makes sense. If all the Greek deities, primordials, titans, Olympians, etc., are all demons, then it seems unlikely that they would war amongst themselves, as Satan's forces always seem to be a united front. But in Enoch chapter 10, it says about the giants, send them one against the other, that they may destroy each other in battle. This may also explain how hybrid heroes themselves often do battle with giants. The lines between demon and Nephilim is admittedly quite blurred, as extra-biblical texts state that when Nephilim die, they remain as demons. And this may be what Christ interacts with in the New Testament, as I referenced earlier. Similarly, it was believed that the Greek hybrid heroes who became worshipped locally after their deaths could in turn interact with the living. This idea that Nephilim become demons may even lend credence to the idea of generations of gods, like we see in the Greek myths, with some being demons that fell at the dawn of time, and others being newer, created Nephilim. With all these complexities, I now want to touch upon the Norse gods. It is said in the Eddas that many Norse gods will be killed in a flood at Ragnarok. It is also said that the Norse gods are exiles from Troy. Knowing that a primary purpose of the flood is to wipe out hybrids, and that many hybrid heroes fought at Troy, including the most famous exile, Aeneas, it is possible that the Norse gods are Nephilim. It is possible that this future flood may be an echo of the past one, especially when we consider the cyclical nature of Norse myth. The Book of Enoch mentions, as I partly recounted, that when the Nephilim die in the flood, they persist as demons, and they desire to inhabit other humans in their demon form. So perhaps Norse demons did die in the flood, and these same demons birthed the hybrid Nephilim heroes in Troy. Where the Bible flips the script most fundamentally is the nature of the universe itself. The pagan myths describe a world that is fundamentally chaos, and any order that wants to exert itself must do so by force, and must defend itself by force. The primordial gods of these various pagan religions are not good. Uranus is not good. He is tyrannical, and he must forcefully quash anyone that might threaten his rule, even his own children, whom he imprisons. But Uranus's consort, Gaia, chaos to Uranus's order, arms their son Cronus to castrate his father, and so it begins. The cycle of revolutions, of son killing father. Of course, Cronus becomes even more tyrannical, eating his own children to prevent their uprising. Zeus too, who eventually defeats his father Cronus, swallowed his own wife to prevent a son being born that would overthrow him. And when it comes to consorting with human women and creating hybrids, Nephilim, then there is none worse than Zeus. This worldview, where the gods and the universe itself are not good, is first of all not one in which I want to live. But more importantly, it means that all rebellions and revolution are justified insofar as they restore some notion of order. Good and evil, if they do exist in the pagan myths, are secondary to the will to power of order over chaos. When we think of St. Justin Martyr's words, how the demons influence these myths to lead humans astray, it makes sense. Of course the demons glorify rebellion. After all, it is their primary sin. It is the first sinful act of the universe, and it is how they can undo God's dominion in the world. And unfortunately, for the last few centuries, as Christianity has waned in the West, rebellion has been on the rise. And unknowingly, we have returned to the pagan story. We see this in revolutionary political movements. We see it in the glorification of hybridity. We see it in idolization of the Titans, who are said to have ruled a golden age with their raw power. So where the Bible inverts, or rather reverts, the pagan myths back to the original truth, most fundamentally, is not with Lucifer, Cain, or the Nephilim, but with God himself. And by re-revealing to us his nature, that he is good, that he creates a universe that is good, and he creates man, whom he loves, to be good. We can reject the corrupted story, and we can return and live in the Christian story, which is the original story. And we do that by remembering that the universe is not chaos in need of subduing, but rather it is a cosmos. It is inherently ordered already, and it is bound in love, in the Logos. And we should act accordingly if we want to bring about the flourishing of this story in the world. We too have a golden age in this story, but it is not Titan rule or Atlantis or the age of hybrid heroes. It is Eden, and it is the age to come. And though we cannot return to Eden, and as much as it feels like it, we are not yet at the eschaton, it is true that the kingdom of heaven is at hand, and it is taken by force. Thank you for your attention. Cheers.